we have created a simple folder inside the projects. Okay, va? P02. So we will keep all the API related files in API folder. Are you guys in the screen? Then we will create one more folder called web to keep all the front end related, that is React related files. Okay, va? So we'll navigate it to the API folder. Okay, done. What is the first step we have to do? So we have to create a virtual environment for the Flask, and then we have to activate it, and then we have to do the we have to run the code. Yes or no? So for that, what we have to do? So Flask virtual environment, you can go to the documentations and then adjust it according to your needs. Let's say if you are using Windows, you have to follow the Windows commands. If I'm using Linux or Mac, what will I do? I will use the Mac or Linux one. Okay, va? Are you guys following up? Yeah. So now in your case, you have to follow the Windows command. I'll follow the Mac or Linux command. So right now I'm in the same project. So what I'll do, I'll try to install the virtual environment for the first time. So I'll done it. It will take few seconds. Yeah. Now let me check. Okay. So because it's a hidden file, so it will not be visible. See, can you see the virtual environment is created? .env folder. Okay. Well, after that, what we have to do? We have to activate. So we'll activate. See, if you notice here, the starting point is sprs::API. But if I activate, no, it will be changed into .env in the front. Can you see here? Yeah, it means that how will you check whether it is activated or not? You can also check which Python. Okay, va? So it will point to your current virtual environment path. Okay, va? So now so far that's it. So we'll just clear the command, then we'll try to install the packages. Okay, va? Done. Shall we install pip install the name of the package? Done. So what we have to do, we have to create some simple file to proceed further. Yeah. So here we are having some simple Flask app to get started with. Okay, va? So I'll go back to the VS Code. I'll open the API folder. In your case, there are two possibilities. You will see that .env folder because I have excluded from the environment. So I went to settings and then I search for exclude. Then inside that file exclude, I excluded a couple of folders. Okay, */.env. So these files will not be visible in my file explorer in the VS Code. The same way, let's say I also excluded *//node_modules so that it will not show it in the file explorer in the VS Code part, so that it will not disturb me for initial days. Okay, va? So now I will try to create one more file called hello.py as given in the example. So we are not starting anything new, we'll just start with very simple. Okay, va? Done. Did we added anything? No. So we have just kept it as a from Flask import. So in React, how will you do? So you will do import first, followed by what is a component, whether it is a default exported component or non-default export component. Based on that, you will do. But here ulta. So for the first from will come the package name and import what is a function or class that we have to import. Okay, va? So we are importing the Flask and then we are initializing it. Then what we are trying to, we are added some route to return it. Okay, va? At the same time, we also added one more plugin that is called REST client so that we can easily call the APIs. Okay, va? We have installed some extensions to call the APIs. For these extensions, what we have to do, we have to create some HTTP file. Let's say I'll create some file called dev.http. Then we know the okay, still we have not started the server. So what we will do first, we'll start the server. How will we start the server? Flask --app hello space run. So here --app hello is the name of the file. Okay, with the starting point. Understood? Let's say if you are keeping some other file name, you have to adjust it accordingly according to your needs. Okay, for some version of Flask or some version of Python, --debug might or might not work. Okay, in my case --debug will not work, but in your case it will work. It depends on the package versions. Okay, you can adjust accordingly. So I'll try to run this one. Shall we run it? Yeah. So is it running now? Yeah, it is running right now. So Flask hyphen app hello run. So now we have to check what is the port that is running. 127.0.0.1 localhost 1 followed by the port is 5000. In your case it might be vary, sometimes 5001, 5002, 5003 or 3000 or 8000, something like that. Okay ba? But most of the time preferably to start with 5000 in Flask by default. Okay ba? If you wanted to change the host, you can also supply the host or the port. Okay ba? Specifically like what you wanted to start with. So now I'll come here, I'll try to define a variable called, let's say, host equal to, because we don't want to put this one every place. So what I'll try to keep it as a variable so that we can reuse it. Okay, this is part of the REST client. This is nowhere related to Python or Flask. Okay, this is simple to call the API. So how do we do that? We need to call the get method, and then we have to access the host variable followed by slash, because it's a what is a route path we have given? It's a root path, right? Yes or no? Root path we were given. Good to go. Shall we run? Yeah. Is it came or not? As we discussed last time, we wanted to return as an object so that we can have the more flexibility in the data returning part. So we are following some conventions, that is status 1. For now, I'll try to keep it a short form of message. So let's say success CLS class. This is our own convention, so you need not to worry much. Okay. Okay. Done. If I try to run it again, what will happen? So ensure that whenever the files are changed, you will see some line like, detected change in some file. But in your case, if the server is not restarted, you have to restart it once again, or you have to press enter, so that it will depends on the processor, what it will take few seconds. Okay, well, if something is not detected, what you can do? You have to adjust it. Understood? So now good to go. Is it changed now? So now the return data type is what? It's an object. As we knew that object or dictionary does not follow the order. Let's say here I am passing the order as status, class, message, payload, but whenever I'm running, it is not giving the same order. The order might be changed, but whereas an array or list, it follows the order. Okay, array always start with 0, correct? 0, 1, 2, 3. So each value can be in any type, correct? String, number, boolean, that is true or false or null, or it can be an array or it can be an object. Let's say if you want to represent related properties for the individual value, then you always preferably go with object. See here we are trying to return only one value, but it has more property, correct? CLS, message, status, so and so. Yes or no? So now I'll change this one into home for now. Okay, root 1. So for now, so that to differentiate between the display text for the internal value, what I'll try to change the value. Okay, or welcome home, something like that, we'll change it. Okay. Done now. So now if I run it, what will happen? So the output will be, this will be the encoded format, right? So that is a character, encoded character. Okay. Got an idea? So I'll remove this one so that you will not get confused. Good to go now. Okay, any queries so far? No, right? Okay, shall we add, now I'll also change the file name. So I'll change it to app so that we'll not get confused, or we'll try to use that app. Now, how do we adjust the command now? First, we need to stop the server. How do we stop the server? Control C, correct? So clear. Then we have to adjust the command name as done. Good to go. So now we'll go and check it again one more time so that whether it is working properly or not. Yes, it's working perfectly fine. Shall we add one more route? We'll try to add one more route. Let's say to-do list. Okay, we'll try to add something like to-do list. Let it be success. Let's say here also list. Okay. Then here we'll try to for now let it be this one. This one let's say to do. Can we keep it like this path? Now let's say in dev, I mean the REST client extension, if you provide triple hash, you can also introduce more APIs. Okay, get host class to do the your path we have to give class done now. Yeah, can you see that the next message also came? See, in your case, if that sometimes you will find 404 because now you have added some route, but the file might not be changed in the server. Okay, it might not restart it or it might not detect the changes. Okay, those cases what you have to do? You have to stop the server and then start it again. Understood? Okay. Shall we go ahead with the next one? So now, for now, what we will try to do, see if tomorrow or day after tomorrow, when you guys starting with projects, right? So those times, initially you have to, create a routes. Let's say right now we wanted to list the to-do list and we also wanted to save the to-do. Okay, let's say to-do save something like that. Now this will be the post one. Okay, so we know that how to pass the post one. Methods are methods will be post. Okay, understood? And also we'll try to add the ID so that if it is a new based on that we can try to add to do ID. Something like that. Whenever we are passing a dynamic path, what we can do? We can access with the help of the parameter. Okay, so let me add this one. Saved successfully. Okay, so shall we print here? Done. So now how many routes are added? 2 routes are added. So temporarily what we will do, we'll try to add some items. Let's say here I'll try to keep some items. Underscore ID. Let's say 1 to do 1. Okay, to do 2, something like that. So now we'll try to return these items. Okay, this is our own convention, so you need not to worry much. Okay, now whenever you are calling the to-do list API, how many to-do items are will return? 2 items will be returned in the format of status, class, message, and then payload. Okay, can you see here? Now, if we call the same thing, we have already created one more API, right? To do slash save slash. We have to pass the dynamic ID, correct? So in my case, I'll pass new. Okay, but if I try to run this one, what will happen? It will raise an error. What type of error you will get? Because you are trying to call the post method, but here you are calling with the head one, get one, correct? So let me you will get an error saying that method not allowed. Okay, got a point? Now how do we change this one? So first I need to change this one to post. Now if I try this one in the terminal or in the console, you will see that new is coming. What if I change this new to something else? If I change it to 1, then we should supposed to get 1 here. Okay, it can be any ID. It's a dynamic variable, dynamic path. Understood? Any doubt so far? Okay, shall we proceed with? So now we have, this is what we can call it as a placeholder or the initial commits. Okay, so in the initial commit, let's say if you are working with a team member, let's say 5 to 10 member, if you are working with, what you can do, you can first initially keep all the APIs, the path, and then dummy data. Okay, does not require any logics, but you try to keep minimalistic cases and try to return so that other team members can easily utilize those APIs and then they can get started parallelly. Okay, any queries so far? Okay, so shall we start with the front end part? For that, what we have to do? So we have to go to the respective directory. So let me go to the web folder. Okay, so now what we have to do? So we are trying to use Vite one, right, for the React one. Yes or no? So we'll go here and then get started. We'll take the command. So I'll copy the one command and then try to adjust it. So we need the web folder. I mean the name of the project is web, and then we need the React one. Yes or no? So we'll navigate to web folder and then we'll install this. It will take few seconds. Yeah. So the only thing here I ask you to adjust is that, let's say there are two web folders. Can you see that? So what I'm gonna do, I'll copy everything and then move it in the main level. Okay, va? So that it will not be look like web inside web. Okay, va? Got a point? Now instead of navigating to the web folder, I'll skip this line because we have removed. Now we'll do the installation part. npm install. This npm install will look for the package.json and try to install all the dependencies and dev dependencies. Okay, va? Try to look for all the dependencies and dev dependencies and then try to install the packages. Once it's installed, npm run dev. I think if you're using React Create app, then you will see something like npm start. When you say start, that will look for in the script, it will look for the start. But if it is anything other than start, then you have to run it like npm run dev. So dev is here, it will call the wheat. The same way you can call npm run build, npm run lint, npm run preview. Okay, va? We can do the same thing. Understood? Huh? Okay. Meanwhile, let it install. Okay, we'll try to have the big picture. Step 1, we have created a simple API. Correct? We'll try to keep it in the main folder, web API, and then we'll also create one more readme. Readme.md. Okay, va? So here, create an API that supports two things. What are the two things? One is for to-do list. Another one is for save the to-do item. Correct? Okay. So here, what is the API that we are trying to use? Class to-do slash list. That is a API. Correct? But for this one, to do slash save slash some ID. Correct? So there are two possibility ID. Either ID could be a any actual ID or it can be new. Okay, va? Whenever we say new, then we will create the ID on the fly. Or if you are passing an ID, it will try to update the same to do. Okay, va? Good to go for now. And for the front end, created a simple React app using Beat. Okay, so this is what we have done so far. Let me go back and then check. Yeah, done. Now we can run the npm run dev. Yeah, so now it's running in the port of 5173. Okay, va? First we will remove all the snippet code which is there in the web folder. Okay, va? So if we go to source and then we'll try to remove. So right now we do not need any of these things. So we'll remove that. And also we'll remove all the CSS which we do not want to right now. The same way we'll try to remove all the CSS part. Okay, va? Now we can also remove this one. And shall we change this into arrow function? That's it. Okay, va? So we do not need a logo here. Good to go. Now if we go back and then nothing is there, we'll try to see whether it is to do something like that. Okay, va? Okay, ma? So we'll try to add some commands here. Let me add h1. Okay, va? So now good to go. After that, what we need to iterate. Correct? So here also, before that, what we can do? Shall we commit the code? Yes or no? Shall we commit? We can commit the code as well also. How do we check the status of the git status hyphen dot. Okay, va? Shall we? Okay, so if we notice here dot .venv is coming. Yes or no? So how do we exclude this part? Okay. Now we'll again check it ignore we want to include, and then web folder P02 folder we have to completely add. Yes, sir. Shall we show it again? Yeah. So we'll shall we commit now? Before that we need to add. I'll try to add all things. Okay, added all. Then git commit. We can specify the message. Okay, okay, va? Done. So now the files are added. I think cache files, node files also added. Okay, we'll remove later for now. Let it be. Git push origin. Later we'll remove that node modules VNV folders for now. Okay. So far done. Any queries so far? Okay. So here we'll try to we'll go back to the app.py and then try to copy this one. Okay, va? And then try to keep it in the front and then try to iterate and then show it in the bullet points. So here, if you want to create a variable, what we have to do? We have to put constant or something like that. Yes or no? So now how do we iterate an array in the front end? We can use map, correct? Done? Any queries so far? This is a simple map. So we have an array of objects. Then there will be a key. Each time we are trying to keep plural form for the array, so that whenever we iterate something, we can access it with the help of singular form. So that will be easier and readable. Second thing, we try to keep the keys here, so we can access the key, because in object we can access the key there are with the help of dot notation or the square notations. So here we have used the dot notation to access. Let's say items we are iterating, each time you will get the item followed by you can have one more thing also. What is that? Index. So but anyway we are not using index right now. I'm not adding it. Okay, va? So item.id. Why do we want to keep the key here? Because it's a virtual DOM. To effectively update the items, it requires a key. Okay, va? Here key we can call it as attribute or the prop also, but here it is a proper way to say that is a attribute. Correct? In HTML, whatever the extra parameter that we are passing, that we can to the element, what we can say attribute. Correct? But if you are passing the same thing to the component, we call it as props. Okay, va? Let's say if you are passing some data to the child, that we can call it as props. If you are passing data from child to parent, that we can call it as a even handler. Correct? So if you are passing simple value, that we can consider as a props. If you are passing a function, that we can consider as a even handler. Okay, va? Yesterday we have done that, no, set count and all. So either you can define it in the the same line, or you can create a function, then you can call the functions. Understood? Now shall we go and see the results? Is this data coming from the front end or is it coming from the back end? Front end only, because we have hard coded now. Yes or no? Now see, whenever we started with something, so you always has to start very simple and then you have to scale. Now what we will try to do, we will call the API and then get the data from the server. Is it server is running right now? Yes or no? It is running. So now tell me, let's say if I wanted the same list from the server, what is the API that I have to use? We know that if I call 127.0.0.1 colon 5000 slash to do slash list, then I will get the list. Yes or no? Correct. So let's say if you want to call the API, then what is functions available for us in the front end? Fetch functions. Correct. With the help of fetch function, what you can do? You can call any API. Any API requires an endpoint. Yes or no? Are we having to call the get method or post method? Here we wanted to call it as in the get method. Correct? So let me go here. let's say whenever you wanted to call a API, you have to use what? Use effect. Yes or no? Okay, we wanted to call it once. Then we'll call something like get to-do list. Okay, va? So that is a simple function. Did we create any functions called get to-do list so far? No. Can we create one more functions here? Constant get to-do list async. You know why do you want to use async? Because we wanted to go line by line executions and then has to wait for the results, because it will return the promise and then we have to wait for the results. So we have to await and then you have to proceed further. What is the port that we are trying to use? 5000, right? 5000 slash to do slash list, correct? From that, what we have to do? So we have to get the extract the data. We know that this data comes in the format of status because we are returning the object, correct? So CLS, MSG, and then payload. Payload is the only one who holds all the data, correct? Now, instead of hard coding here, what we will do? Shall we remove this line? Yeah. So we'll create a use state. Here, item is the one who holds the current value. Set items, to help us to update the current value. Yes or no? Into the state. And this will be the default one. Understood? Now what we can do, because right now we know that we always get the successful response, correct? We will try to add some three different things. What are the three different things? Either server will have an error, or either we will have the to-do list, or we will not have any to-do list so far, correct? These are the three possibilities. And before that, we also have to add one more thing called pending state. That is, whenever the API is calling, we need to show the loader symbol also, correct? So these are the 3 to 4 state that we have to handle in the UI. Understood? Now, shall we set the data? How do we set the data? Set items of payload. Understood? Now, if we go back and then try to see what is happening. Okay, some error is there. We'll try to solve. What it says, access to fetch at has been blocked by the core policy, no access control, blah blah, correct? So now how do we do that? Because let's say you are trying to call it from localhost 5173, but you are trying to call the different server. Yes or no? What is the server you are trying to call? 5000. Now what it says, it does not allows the cross domain access one. Let's say if people are allowing cross domain, let's say if you are trying to call the some different servers API, if it is allows by default, what will happen? Anybody can call any servers, right? Yes or no? So we wanted to block it. But if you are accessing directly through the URL, it will come because that you are directly calling. But here browser will block the cross domain access. So now how do we do that? So we have to search something like in Flask, correct? Allow course. Understood? So now we have to check how do we adjust it. Is there any so we can install some packages Flask course, and then we can attach the course to the app. Can you see here? Yeah, we'll try to install that. How do we install the packages for that? Pip install Flask course. So we'll stop the server. So now you have installed one more packages, right? Now how do we take this the installed packages to your requirement.txt? Pip freeze okay, va? So if you go back to the API folder, right, you can see the list of packages which are installed, and then it will come down. Understood? Very simple. So now what we can do, we can try to add this line. I mean, we can import this one first in the app. So now we have one more clue. What is that? We know that there is an app. Yes or no? Correct or not? Now what we can do, we can attach the app to the course. Now let me check. So first we need to start the server again. Done. Now we'll come back and then check everything's working fine. Okay. Now we'll go back and then try to call it. So now APs are calling, but only the problem is that, see, if you notice here, list is called, data also came. Yes or no? List is called, data also came back, but the only problem is that we got an error. Why? Because it trying to iterate items. So now we'll go back and then try to solve the problem. So now items is there. So this items, what it says, items dot map. Okay, use state. Okay, everything's fine. Payload. Okay. Okay, it is not exactly payload. Inside payload, there is something called items we have to take. Yes or no? Here we have to take the items. Understood? Inside payload, there is sub items are there. Okay, va? If we go back, data came. So now, how do we mimic to bring the late response? Yeah, shall we introduce set timeout so that we can see that loader symbol and all? We can try to integrate. Set timeout. We were talking about set timeout, right? Why do you want to use set timeout? Why do you want to use set timeout? To mimic the loading part. Okay, va? But in reality, you need not to have that. Okay. We'll come back to the output and then try to see. Now clear it and then try to check. It will take few seconds. Then it will call the API and then it will show the list. Okay. Huh? See, initially the first step what we have done, we have hard coded it so that we will build the UI. After that, what we have done, then we have removed that hard coded text and then we have called this thing API and then printed. And if you notice that we have done the API part separately and keep it ready, and the front end part we have ready with the UI. After that, what we have done, we have just connected together. Okay, va? Now we want to introduce the loading state. Yes or no? Constant. Okay, va? Let me keep by default false. Or in your case, let's keep it as true itself for no issues. So now we'll use the loading variable. What we can do? We can show the loading text. Are you guys in the screen? Yeah. And the same thing, whenever if it is loading, we should not show the UI. Correct? So what we will do, let's check the count. If the items count is exist, or we can use optional chaining. Item start. Okay, let's keep it as directly item start. Anyway, it's a simple array we have, no? Length is greater than 0. Understood? And one more combinations will be there. What is that? If it is not loading, and then item start length equal to 0, then we can say it as no items. Okay, va? So only these three states that we want to represent. Good to go. If we go back, we'll refresh the page. Loading is coming. Then API will be called after few seconds. Now if you notice here, loadings keep on coming. Why? Because we have set the initial state. Better I'll keep it here false. Then here, whenever the API is called, then we'll change it to let's set loading to true. Once the data comes successfully from the server, what we can check, what we can do, change it to false. Okay, va? Done na? Any queries so far? Yeah. So loading will be there. Whenever the loading completed, the data will be rendered. If I go back to the UI, and then try to add 3 to 4 more items. Okay, well, let's say 3. Okay, better I'll do it. How many items are there? 6 item. If I go and refresh the page, it will take few seconds because we have added the set loading and also set time load for 5 seconds delay so that we can see the loading state. Okay, now we have one more issues. So let's say every time I don't want to go refresh here, correct? So let me keep one more thing. Let's say in the front end, shall we keep one more button here? Somewhere here, let's say some button, refresh, something like that. We can click on click. Can we call the same function again? If I call the same function, what will happen? Whenever if I click on refresh, so that now we'll try to see. So now there is a refresh button, correct? If I click on refresh, can you see that loading is called? Now it will try to fetch. Okay, assuming that now we have not refreshed the page. If I go back to the server and then try to add one more item. Now how many item has to come if I refresh? See, now I'm not using this refresh button. I'm trying to use this refresh button. Okay, initially there will be how many items? 6. But if I refresh, how many items has to come? 8. If I refresh it, loading state came. After successful refresh, what we can do? We can see the 8 different items. Can you see that? Yeah. So now can we change the loading icon? Let's say right now the loading symbol is not good because we have added a simple text, correct? So we'll try to use some loading symbol, loading GIF. Okay. It's a very big image, man. Okay, that's okay. So we can save this. So pivot to web folder and then public folder, and then I'll try to keep it as loading.gif. Okay, now if I come back and then try to call that one, let's say instead of hard coding this one loading, what we can do, we can use that loading image. So what is the tag that we can use? Image source slash loading dot gif. Okay, we can also keep the styles. We'll try to keep very minimalistic size. Width will be, let's say 100, or let's say 50 or something like that for now. Okay, 100 is okay. Now we'll go back and then try to see. Can you see that? Whenever it is loading is happening, what has happened? GIF is coming up, but again that is not good. So better we'll pick some logo. I mean, pick some loading which is small and then simple. Okay. Shall we take this one? No. I think first one is very simple. Good to go. Okay, simple, and then we'll change it. This one loading with this one. Replace. Then what we can do? We can try to refresh it and then see. Oh, that is even more bad. Okay, I think this one is transparent. Good to go. Save image as, or first we'll open it. I will come here and then try to refresh it. Okay, now we'll try to reduce the size of the image. Okay, now this is perfectly fine, but we don't want to show. We'll try to show it in the separate line rather than same line. Okay, done. Now anyway we have only one item, so we can just keep two things. Let's keep it as div. Then after the image we can try to keep it as loading. This will be okay. Yeah, is it okay now? So here maybe if you want we can add because we are also trying to learn CSS now. So we'll try to add display flex. Okay, it is coming in center. Now what we can do, we can add some space. Okay, space is not working, maybe because instead of that, for now I don't want to go with depth. NP. Okay, so to mimic that the space, later we will adjust it. Now whenever we give a refresh, that is good to go. Again, refresh button also, what we can do, we can change it to some icon, something like that, but for now okay. Most of the time we will not use inline style, but for now our goal is to get the data from the server and then try to right here, correct? So we don't want to go depth for now. Okay, refresh button is here. Done. Okay, still there is a problem with that. So after refresh button, we need a break. Okay, now good to go. The server is called. But only problem, whenever here there is a lot of space in between refresh and the, because we are using div. Okay, let it be for now. Any other query so far? So now we have called the API and then we have bring all the data into the front end. Yes or no? Now let's introduce one more simple form here. But instead of trying to render all these things here, what we can do, I'll cut that portion and then try to create some component. Let's say to do list.jsx. Oops. Can we do this one? We'll move that isolated to the separate component. Okay, to do list. We can take as a props. We'll return it. Can we do this now? See here, what we are trying to do, we have to call that to do form here. Understood? If items.length is more than 0, what we can do? Can we call the to do list component? Did I change it into to do last? Oh, okay. I'll adjust it. Oh. Okay, now only thing here we have to export. Done. Now here I'll remove this line. Screen. Yeah. So now the only thing, we have to take the data from the props. So how do we take a data from the props? So props is an object anyway, because all the time that that object is supports complex data type, correct? So you can pass it as a key value params. We are doing here what? We are doing the destructuring of object. Okay, items. We know that items is an array. So we can do the map. And return statement always expects only one child, I said only one parent element. So parent element is only one, so we need not do anything here. Okay, we are just passing a props as items, so we are taking an items and passing it. So now can you see the pages are simplified here? Now can we move the same logic this also? Let's say for loading component, can I create one more common component? Let's say loading .jsx. Can I export something like that? Constant loading. Okay, can I export here? default loading. Now can we import here? We can import also. Can you see here? Loading is imported. I think to-do list not imported. How do you import to-do list? Component name is to-do, again to-do list only. File name also to-do list only. Okay. Can you see here? So that this code more readable, the readability of the code is little more comfortable than it was before. Yes or no? Initially we have kept all the line of code here, but when you're starting with something, you don't want to go ahead, splitting up all the files and then all the in the step one. First you do it there and then try to see the minimalistic result. If it is okay, what you can do? You can move it to the component. But once you're comfortable with the basics, what you can do? You can straightforward, you can create the file and then you can do the stuff. Okay. For the initial days, what you have to do? You have to start with very simple and then try to do it in the front end and then try to do it in the back end separately. The only connecting part is connecting with the API. Correct? That we can use with the help of REST API. So that we are using here for function, for fetch function. Okay. Any query so far? Good to go? Yeah. So now what we have to do, we have to create a one more thing for form. Let's create a form. Get simple input button, input box, and then add button. Okay, can we create one more thing called name? Let's say some description, something like that. Then we also have to introduce one more state so that to manage that. Correct? So better, so can we isolate this form to separate components so that we don't want to keep any of the state here? See, let's say now in order to deal with that input box, now what you have to do, you have to add a state. Let's say description, set description, and you have to assign the value, and also you have to do the unchange one. Yes or no? So instead of that, better we will move all the logic to the standalone component so that we don't want to later point and we don't want to cut, copy, paste here. Understood? So I'll try to move this logic. We'll create a file to do form.jsx. Then what we can do? To do form. That one we'll do later. For now, let it be. Okay. Can we call this one there? Before that, what we have to do? There are two ways to export. What are the two ways to export? Okay, so in this time, I try to export as a non-default so that you can see the import statement. Okay, does not mean that we have to export all the time, but for now, for learning purpose, what I'm gonna do, I'll try to export as a non-default. So how will import? To do form. Okay, how do you call the component? Name of the component. Done? Everything's fine here. Yeah. So better for now, I'll remove the. Shall I remove that set time load part? Because now every time it takes few seconds to load. I'll remove that logic. Now we have to add the async. Good to go. Shall I zoom it a little bit? Is it visible now? No. If okay, I think this will be comfortable for me. Yeah. So now if we go back, to-do lists are came. So better I'll try to remove the items also for now to keep the numbers are less. Okay. Now how many items are there? So if I refresh, it will be less. Okay. Okay. Can you able to see the button? So we have simple input box and then some add button. Before that, whatever we are typing, that has to be connected to the form. Yes or no? So for that, what we have to do? And we introduce some state. Okay, can we keep it like that? Then this has to be connected here, value. Then on change we have to set this description. Okay va? Now whenever this form is submitted, what we can do? So this logic we can, okay, for now let it be. On submit, the function we are trying to call, okay, for now we'll console the description alone inside that. Okay, whenever we click on a submit, what we will do? Any query so far? See, we introduce a state so that we can link it to the button, and whenever the data are changing, it will change the value of the set description. Okay, va? Okay, something, okay, not defined. Now tell me what is an error here? How do we solve this? Yeah, yeah, we have to import that. It trying to use the use state, but there is no use state here in this file. Correct? Done? Good to go? Okay, so no errors now. So if I type something, okay, it is not coming anything. So can we try to click on submit? Can you see here? But if you notice here, the page is getting reloaded. Can you see that? And also it went to the URL. Correct or not? So for that we can use even that prevent default, so that it will stop the default behavior. And what is a method type we have to use? Method supposed to be post. Okay, va? Now if I clear it and then refresh the page for now, if I type something, okay, if I click on add, it should console, but in this time it is not reloading. Have you noticed? If I remove this particular line, even that prevent default function, if I'm not specifying this now, what will happen? It will, in normal form, it trying to redirect to the actions page. If you are not specifying an action page, what it does, it will try to reload the same page. I mean, it will try to submit the data to the same page. Okay, va? Now we have specified the form type, and now whenever the form is click on submit, normally what people will do, let's say whenever you are typing comments in WhatsApp, if you are typing something, and whenever you click on add, that is click on send, what you are expecting, you wanted to clear that box. Correct? You have to clear the box. I click on this one, but it is not clearing. Yes or no? How do we clear? So we can use set description to empty. Understood? Now if I go back and then refresh the page, clear it, if I type something, then if I click on clear, what happened? It's cleared, right? Good to go so far. Okay. For now, what I'll do, for whenever we start with something, I'll try to keep it as something like to do. Let it be start with to do. Okay, va? So let's say if I clear, and then can you see that to do is set by default? Then I'll try to add to do 3, to do 4, to do 5 for now. Okay, va? So we are trying to set the default value, but the problem is that whenever if I submit, what happened here? That value is resetted, but again we are expecting, again prefix with to do. Okay, va? Now we have two choices, but for now I'll try to keep it as default value, something like that. Okay, va? So I'll try to keep it as to do here. Then I'll pass this one here as well, and also pass this one here as well. Okay, va? So far good. But in reality, we have something called reset forms and all we have. So we'll do that later point. But for now, we don't want to make it complicated here. Okay. So let me clear it and then refresh the page. Okay. Good to go. If I click on add, then it will just keep the to do again. But what it does, it will remove the, it reset it again to whatever we are typing. Understood? Only for during the testing time. So after that, later we'll remove this one to empty. Okay. Now we need to call the parent server with the data, whatever it is typed here. Okay, va? Now we have two choices. We need to pass two things. One is underscore ID, another one is title. Correct? Or the value. I think we have kept it as title as far as my understanding. Yeah, underscore ID and title. Okay, va? If I change title into, let's say, content, what we have to do? What are the places we have to change so that that will affect all the places? First thing, wherever we are listing the data, there we have to change the item.content. Correct? Step number one. Step number two, in the form, we don't want to keep it as description. Now instead of that, what we can do? Can we change it to content? Then many places are there. I try to use Control D to select the related places and then replace it at once. Okay, that is simple shortcuts that you can do. I think Control D only. Yeah. If I select the first letter and then try to do the Control D, so that it will try to select the remaining areas, which is matches. And whenever you do the Control D now, you will have the access to the case sense, whether case has been matched or the whole world has been matched or some sort of things. That is a part of the VS Code thing. Okay, va? If you are using a different editor, then what you have to do? You have to adjust it accordingly. Okay, va? Now ensure that everything's working fine. But what happened here? I think we have to refresh the page. Yeah. So now it's gone. Okay, coming correctly. Okay, good to go. See, refresh is working perfectly fine. But if you notice here, it's shaking. Correct? Why? Because there is a loader symbol. It's going. I mean, the complete block is coming and going, right? So better what I'll try to do. I'll try to keep the form item above the refresh button. Okay, va? Can we keep it like this so that it will not disturb now? So if I go back, okay, so maybe problem with the break. We'll keep the break here. Okay, va? So now if you refresh, only the refresh portion will be get affected, but not this one. Okay, va? Good to go. Yeah. So now we have a submit button. Whenever we click on submit button, console is done. Now we have to call the server. Yes or no? We have to call the server in a format of underscore ID and then content. Okay. Before that, before calling the parent component, how do we call the parent component? We have to define the event handler. What is event handler here? So the parent component, whenever you are calling an event, so this is a normal props because you are just passing a value. But in this case, I wanted to pass something like, as a form or the function. Okay, on submit, let's say I'll keep function ms on save to do form, save to do item, something like that. Okay, so that you can differentiate the names. So here, what I'll do, I'll create one more function, constant save to do item, asyncs, and I try to keep the whole content here. So I don't want to. Okay, maybe payload is okay, or the input, something like that we can keep. The same way what we have to do. So here, if you go back to our save one, this is how our format. Yes or no? Correct? Okay, can we adjust it here? We can adjust it here. The only thing here, instead of one, what we have to do? We have to pass the ID. Correct? In our case, what could be the our ID? Inside input, or we can keep it as item. Yeah. Inside item, what we have? Item dot underscore ID. Let it be like that. Can we keep it like that? See, I think in the first or second class we were discussed, no? Some places we will use double quote, some places we will use single quote, but some places also will use backtick. So here backticks will help us to add the interpolations for the variables. Okay, so dollar curly braces. So if whenever you use backtick, no, this will be act like a variable that you're passing a dynamic value. Understood? And then in fetch, how will you do the post data? So now we have to look for the code and somewhere we have to refer somehow, tell the server that, okay, I wanted to post the data using fetch one. How do you do that? Fetch API post one. Okay, Check here. Any post here? Post method. Can you see the post method? See, first argument is passing URL. Second argument as an object where we can pass the method as post. Yes or no? And can you see something called body in the post data? Can you see? See, this is how we have used fetch followed by URL. We have already used. Yes or no? See here, fetch followed by this is a URL. Yes or no? This is a URL. But the second argument, what we have to do? We have to pass the method post, and also we have to pass the body. Yes or no? Can we pass it now? No? So I'll try to pass the method post and then body. In body, what we have to pass? Whatever the item is coming. Correct? Good to go? Now we'll try to see whether it is working or not. Okay, va? So now we'll remove the loading. For now, let it be the loading is there. Okay, va? This one will not be there for now. Let me console the payload down or console the message. So far so good. So method will be post, body will be item, and then we are trying to call this one. So this prop we have to use. How do we access props in the form item? Props dot on submit, because props is an object. We can use dot notation to access the props, but here props act as like a function that is a event handler that is on submit. So whatever we have written on submit, no, this word only we are using here. Understood? The same way, whatever we are using items here, no, items, this item, this variable, this property name, that is the one who we have destructured here. Understood? I think I am passing in a wrong place. Wait a minute. I think this on submit has to be added to the form, not for the list. Understood? Okay. Yeah. So now we'll go here and then try to see. Clear, and then try to add something. But if you notice here, we are not passing any content. So this is supposed to be passed as what? Underscore ID supposed to be new. Content supposed to be content. Correct? That is remain same. Now we'll click here and then call. Can we call? Can you see here? Now we'll try to see. Can you see that to do slash save slash new is called? But here, what happened here? It passing as a object of object. Now how do we handle this? So that is why what they have done, they are trying to do the stringify, json.stringify. Let's say if you want to encode the object, you have to use json.stringify. I mean, convert to string. From the string to JSON, we can use json.parse. Okay, va? And also we can specify the content type. But if you notice here, what are the content types are accepted? What are the content types are accepted? Content type, application bar, text, www-form, URL encoded, multipart form data, or text.plain. Can we also check whether is it possible to support content type using fetch API, application JSON data using fetch? We'll try to see. Okay, they have already given some sample. We'll go there and then try to see. Application bar. Can you see here? Still you can use this method. How you can use that method? There we have already added get method is post. Yes or no? Already we have added this one. But only thing we have not added json.stringify we have not added. Are you guys listening or not? Yeah, so here we have to adjust that body item to be json.stringify of item. That is first one. Second thing, we have to pass it as a content type as application bar JSON. Can we pass it here? In object, is it order is matter? In object, is it order is matter? No, we can pass any order. Okay, va? But preferably we'll try to keep it as method first, header second, then followed by body content. Okay, va? Now we'll go back and then try to see where is okay, this is the place. So we'll refresh it once, clear it. I try to type something, we'll try to see. If I go click on here, okay, some problem is with that. Okay, can you see now the data is passing as an object? Content type. We'll also look for the content type. What is the content type that is passing? Application bar JSON. So in the payload it is passing as an object, and then response also came. Good to go, ba? Any query so far? I'll tell you one more time. Let's say first time what we have done, we don't want to keep all the code here, so that because this page will be more complex. Instead of that, what we have done, we have created a separate file and then do all the stuff there, and then just import that and then using it. Let's say the same component can be reused in all the places. Okay, va? And then we wanted to try to keep the reusability of the form. What we have done, the handling the form, I mean after submission of the data. For example, let's say form 1 they might wanted to call it in some place, but form some other page they might wanted to submit to some different page. Okay, va? Let's say there is a requirement, you have to collect some inputs, and then whenever they click on submit, you are calling the parent component, let the parent component take the decision. For example, let's say HOD asked me to collect the list of students. Okay, va? They are giving an instruction to section A, section B, section C. Now you are collected the list and then you are giving back to the list to the HOD ma'am. Okay, va? Now she will take, or she or he will take to the next step. Correct? In the same way, here we have created a form to collect the data, but we are giving back to the parent form. Let the parent form take a decision, whatever the things that the parent form has to do. Okay, va? Depends on your use cases. Let's say you are collecting data and then posting data by yourself, then you can keep it in the same form. Okay, va? Same component. But if you have a requirement, let's say you wanted to keep it in the parent one, what you can do? You can, with the help of event handler, what you can do? You can pass it to the parent form. Correct or not? See, if you notice here, to do form is a child component. Yes or no? Now the submit is triggered. It will come here, and then it will pass it to the parent component. Yes or no? Now parent component, what it does, it will call again one more function within the code, then it will do the job. Either they will keep it there, simply do the console, or they can call the server and do the some job. Yes or no? So in that part we are using fetch one to post the data. See, I'm trying to keep all small things together, so that if later depends on your requirement what you can do, you can easily adjust it. Okay, well, let's say if you have a requirement that you wanted to save everything in the child component, what you will do, you will keep this one here itself. Okay, well, here itself you will keep, but instead of calling prop start, what you will call, you will call directly on submit. Understood? Simple on submit. Here, sorry, here it's not on submit, it will be a save to do item. Understood? But here what we are trying to do, we are trying to pass it to the parent element, so that parent element will do the job. Okay, well, they will take a decision and then take it further. Good to go? So that is what we are trying to do. See, each property, somehow it will be interrelated. Let's say here, can you see the on submit here? The same on submit property we are calling here, this on submit, props dot on submit. Okay, better I'll do one thing. Here I'll change into on submit on save. Oh, okay, let it be called, this is a local item. We can remove this one. Here we'll keep it as keep it as on save, so that now you can able to differentiate the names. Okay, va? See, this on save is this one. Inside props you will have on save property. That is because it's an object now. Props is an object. You can access with the help of dot notation on save. Okay, va? Now in the main page, this on save will call the save to do item. So that is a local function of the parent function, parent component. Understood? So now you are calling the API. If you go back to the API, what you can do? you can try to check whether it is consoled or not. I'll start the server now. I will restart the server. Before that, I'll clear it. Okay. Now I'll back to the front end form. Can we console it? Yesterday we have seen how to access the data from the payload data. Request.json, request.form, request.files, request. Something. Yes or no? We have saw some related functions, right? With the help of Flask. Okay. So here I'll try to print the print of okay. I'm trying to print the JSON part. Before doing all the stuff, first we have to check it here. So what is the content type that we want to pass? Application bus JSON, and then we are trying to pass underscore ID and also content. Onna? Can I call the API now? And here, if you are adding last comma on, then this will give an error. So leave that last comma out of the object. Shall I call this one? API is called. Can you please go and check here? Is it coming? Yes or no? If I call the same way with the help of in the front end, no, it's supposed to print the same way. Correct? So we'll go back here and then try to. I'll not type anything here for now. I'll just click on add and then try back to this one. Can you see that it's coming or not? See, we have we have run the API separately with the help of REST client, and then we have checked everything working fine. And then from the front end, we try to console everything, whether whatever the expected format that we need, we have consoled and then checked everything working fine. Then finally, what we have done, we have just connected to the API. Okay, va? Now, if I try to saying something like, let's say, okay, I'll just put 4. If I click on submit or if I click on add, can you see here add is coming? Correct? To do 4. Okay, well, now you have an idea. Now, whatever it is coming here, shall I return to the front end? Yes, we can. Yes or no? Understood what I'm saying? Whatever we are trying to pass it from the front end, what we can do, we'll try to return it. So shall I return as item? Shall I return the whole data, whatever it is coming here? Yes or no? But in reality, what you will do, we will save this into the database and then return with an ID. Okay, well, that is what we always do. Okay, let me go to the front end. That is front end code, this one. So we'll try to print the payload data. Okay, well, after adding, can we print? If I add 4, in the console, it's supposed to come as item or inside item content to do 4 item is coming. This is coming from the server, not from the front end. Can you see the data is coming from the server? Yes or no? Now what we will do, we will set it to the data. Here we have the local variable, right? Set items. Yes or no? Now we will try to constant item equal to payload.item. Okay. Then set items of previous items we have to take. If I think this one we need not to do. We can just append the previous item. Correct? Previous items dot push of items. Then we can return that item. Good to go. Now I'll try to explain this one later. For now, just what we are trying to do, we are just adding. Item is already declared. Okay, because we have already declared here somewhere else. Okay, so better what we will do. Shall we change it as to do item? We'll change the variable to do item. Okay, now we'll come back, clear it, and then let me add 4. But here what has happened? It happened twice. How do we do that now? Why it is added twice? Either this function is called twice, or the data comes 2 times it's coming. Okay, but it's appending now. Yes, sir. That we will fix. For now, you got an idea, no? So what we are trying to do, we are taking the previous data and then we are adding to the sets. Got an idea? Now, what we can do, so now only one problem is coming. What is the problem? It coming 2 times. So now we'll try to see why it is coming 2 times. First, we'll refresh the page. Encountered 2 children with the same key, because we are hard coding the data and then passing it. Correct? Can we create some random ID and then pass it to the front end? So in the back end, how do we take the random ID from the Python? Python random number. Generate pseudo. No, we need to simple number only we need. Okay. We can use some math library to do the job. For now, what we can do? Good to go. So we'll just add where it is. Can import it, and then we can add a number. And before attaching here, what we can do, item equal to request.json. If item underscore id equal to new, what we can do? Okay, good to go now. What we are trying to do, we are picking some numbers, any numbers, and then try to attach it, so that we don't want to mess up with the id for now, temporarily. Maybe we can add one more number so that it will not pick the random same number again and again for a short period. Okay, we are trying to mimic some id that is unique. Okay, clear it, refresh it, no error. Then we'll try to add. So now if we go back here, if we go to the console, sorry, go to that fetch bar xhr, save is called once. Can you see that id came 2067? Yes or no? It is a random id. If I try to add one more times, what will happen? Let me add 4, came with a different number. Okay, that is to just avoid the unique key. Now what happened? Okay, that is because it trying to render two items in the same level. That is why the duplicate key errors are coming. Now can we go on that? We have to fix in the front end. Yes or no? So here two items are came. Now what we have to do? So we'll try to check the previous items and then see why this is coming twice. If I'm not adding this one, what will happen? We'll see. Okay, clear it. 1. In previous item, how many items are came? 2 items. Correct? So no problem with that part. Now only thing, after taking the previous item, let me add let to-dos equal to previous item and then to-do item, and then we'll return the to-dos. Okay, can we console it? Yeah, shall we clear it? Yeah, can you see here how many items are added now? Is it fixed that part? Yes or no? See, whenever you have an issue with that part, what we can do, try to console it and then try to see what mistake that we are doing. Then what we have to do? We have to adjust. See, that is why I'm trying to search in front of the screen, so that you can also, whenever you are having a different requirement, you can also search and then try to solve the problem. Let's say for the first time we have faced an error, no, course problem. Yes, sir. We got some error related to course. What is meant by course here? cross domain access, correct? Cross origin. It will not it will not allow different port or different URL that you are calling from the front end. Yes or no? To fix that part, what we have done, we have explored some, we have searched in Google, and then we identify some article and then try to go through the Stack Overflow post and then try to resolve that. Yes or no? See, you have to start trying so that you will get some clue. There we have got a clue that there is an app, and then if you attach the course to the app, what will happen? It will try to allow. That is what we have seen. So we have taken a snippet of that part and then we can just try to adjust it according to our need. Okay, va? Now, so far it's good to go. Can you see here whatever we are adding? Let's say if I'm adding 3, is it added? 4, added. 5, added. Can you see the items are added one by one? The only one thing is left. Let's say if I'm trying to refresh, what happened now? It is gone. Correct. For this purpose only, we need a database to store somewhere. Either we have to store it in the file or either we have to store it in the database. Why we want to store it in the database? Because database primarily designed to handle the data. Correct? If you have any assets like PDF or document, then you have to store it as a file and then you can do it. Let's say if you are deploying in any cloud server, what you will do? You will have dedicated services for that to store that, like in a kind of CDN or S3. Okay, well, CloudFront. I mean, CloudFront, with the help of CloudFront, we can also supply the public URL. Okay, well, for in our case, we are not gonna do all these things, but what you got an idea. Okay, well, see now if I try to add here, it will be there. It will be visible to the eye. But what will happen if I refresh? That is gone. Correct? So now we have done what we have done so far. Created a app, API, created a web, and then we have get the data from the server, and then we are trying to post the data to the server and getting a response and adding to the state. You got a point? Technically, this to-do list, you can mimic the same thing. Let's say if you are whenever you are opening any website, let's say if you are opening a Twitter, you are getting the list of feeds. What does that mean by? They will call the server and get the list of posts or list of articles and then bring it to the front end and then show it. Correct? Now they have added some more features. Let's say if once you reach down to the bottom, what they will do? Again, they will call the server with the help of pagination. They can start adding. Understood? But idea remains same. So for initial time, you have to call the server and then you have to list it out. After that, what you have to do? Whenever you are posting something, that has to be added to the list. Okay, well? Now you have a question. So no, sir, whenever I wanted to add something, let's say if I add 3, then it's supposed to come on the top. How do we do that? The same thing. Instead of prepending, instead of pushing, then what you can do? You can add it to the front. If I go and refresh the page and then try to add 3, can you see here? Done? It's adding in the top. Understood? Here we have used a triple dot. Yes or no? Nobody asked a query that why that triple dot is used. That is called spread operator. Spread operator. What it does, it will take all the value and then try to flat it. Let's say you know what is a previous item. Previous item is an array. Correct? From the naming itself, we have suggested that is a plural form. Whenever we try to keep the names in plural form, what is our expectations? It's an array. Correct? Array of items. Correct? So previous items are the value. Let's say whatever the to-do list that was coming for the first time, and then we are just trying to add it. Okay, va? So far so good. I do understand some difficulty in this process. In the post, after this one, no, we will try to connect with the DB and then try to get the data from the database. Okay, va?